group. This is the Austin Women's Investing Group. We've been around since 2011. Now I think we have over 2,200 members. We've gotten a couple really cool pieces of press just from being something different from everything else out there. One article in the New York Times and a recent article in Real Simple magazine, so check those out if you haven't seen them already. But I mean, the mission of this group is to get a bunch of women together in a room, in a Zoom room, in a whatever room, and discuss investing and finance and money in a safe all-female setting. So, you know, whatever questions you have, this is the place to ask them. We have lots more topics coming up over the course of the year, so we're going to keep with our monthly meetings, though now they're on Zoom. I mean, I think what's kind of cool about this whole thing and us morphing onto the Zoom platform is, or RingCentral platform, is that now we don't have to be limited to people in Austin. So if you know people who want to join us from wherever, have them, you know, give them our information, have them join the meetup group or the Facebook group so that they can get the invitations to join us, because now we're not limited. You know, we're still called the Austin Women's Investing Group, but I know we have people on the call today that are not in Austin, and that is amazing. We're here for all the women, so wherever they may be. Just really quickly, none of the things in this group are intended to be individualized investing advice. That has never been a problem, and I never anticipated being a problem, but I still try to say it every time. You know, we do talk about investing, and we talk about something that could be construed as advice if you kind of stretched. But really, this is just a place for you to ask questions, give your feedback, get answers, and get more information to make better money choices going forward. Am I missing anything on the regular intro? Oh, we've got Jess is here from California. Awesome. So happy to have you. As you, the chat, I strongly encourage you to use the chat feature because sometimes it'll side discussions break out over in the chat room, which is what would happen in a meeting if we were all together. Usually there's someone leading the topic and then these little like side discussions break out, which is what makes the group so magical. So please kind of keep your chat box open. That's where you can ask questions. Gwen and myself will be keeping an eye on the questions for Laurie as she's going through her slide deck. So we'll try to get to as many as we can. And then we're also trying something new today with breakout rooms. So hang with us as we do that for the first time. We're gonna break into smaller groups, which I think will be really fun. And if we run into technical difficulties and something totally breaks down and we all disappear, hang out for 5 minutes and give us a chance to log back in and get things restarted. I don't think we've really had that problem yet, right? But first time for everything. So just to kind of set that expectation that, you know, if we get interrupted, give us a chance to get the call back online. And if we're not able to get it back online, we'll resend like a reschedule invitation. All right, without further ado, I'm gonna hand it over to Laurie Watts, who's our presenter, and let her walk us through what the meeting's gonna be about. Take it away, Laurie. You're on mute though. Hold on, let me unmute you. I saw a meme the other day that the 2020 quote of the year is, "You're on mute."
You're on mute.
You are unmuted now, Laurie.
I'm unmuted now.
Yeah.
But thanks for joining us, and thanks for putting what your tendency is. I find it very interesting to see, and we're going to do a poll in a minute, and we'll see the percentage of how many people are each tendency, because I find that really interesting. And Gretchen Rubin, who developed this, she had a survey done nationwide to determine like what the percentage in general usually is. So we'll compare that with what we get. So has everybody pretty much done the survey? I'm guessing by now people have. So first thing we're gonna do is the poll. Do you want to run the poll, Gwen, or do you want me to?
I can put the poll questions up, and then once everybody's gotten a chance to answer, then I'll also show the percentages if that sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. First question up.
Laurie, you might have to stop your share screen.
I'm seeing a lot of answers coming in already.
I'm not seeing it. All right, well.
I can't see the quiz either.
You don't see the poll either.
No, I see it, but it I don't know if it's because of what I am. It doesn't let me choose anything.
Everyone else can see it.
Okay.
Maybe because I'm joining from the browser.
Oh, yeah. If you're joining us from the browser, then you may not be able to see the polls. Can you see the chat box?
I can.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have some poll questions later on that will be answered actually in the chat box instead of on the poll screen. So just hang in and we will get to those questions pretty soon. It looks like most people have voted now, 70%. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and then share the results. Pretty interesting.
Questioner is the hard one.
For those of us who aren't on, who can't see the poll, can you read the question again and tell us the results?
Yeah.
So
this one, oh, sorry. This one was just to see the percentage of distribution of the tendencies in our group. So we have 17% obligers in the group, 17% rebel, 50% questioner, and then 17% upholder. So it's pretty evenly distributed except for questioners, which make up half of our group.
Awesome.
So I want to share something before we go on to the next question. Here is the percentage from the survey that she did nationally. So usually it's mostly obligers and questioners, upholders, and rebels are at the bottom. So I think it's really interesting that with us, with our group, we have a lot of questioners, which makes sense because if you're in a group, you want to know how things are doing. Obligers to rebels to, I saw we had more than that, but that kind of makes sense too, I guess. If people are investing on their own independently, they're doing it their own way. And upholders too. So it's really interesting. It's a little different. When we did the survey last time, we had 2 upholders, 9 obligers, no, 9 questioners, 6 obligers, and 2 rebels. So when we did it last time, the questioners were still the top, but obligers were next. So it's interesting. Interesting. Okay, let's do the next question.
Okay, so the next question is up, and this is just your opinion of your result. After taking the quiz, do you agree with your result? So the choices are yes, it's spot on, or sort of, or no, I don't think it fits. So I'll leave this up for just a few more seconds and give everybody a chance to vote. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll since it looks like most of us have voted. And here are the results.
Okay, so that says that most people, 62%, thought it was spot on, that it really did seem to resonate with them. 38% thought, yeah, a little bit, and no people thought that it didn't fit. So most people thought that there was something in this that resonated with them and then kind of seemed to identify with them. And that actually kind of makes sense because Gretchen believes you can be in one particular tendency, but you might tilt towards another tendency, but you still have a primary tendency. So you could be like an obliger / upholder. So for me, I think I'm an obliger / upholder because I'm an obliger. It's hard for me to do things that I want to do if somebody's not depending on me, but yet I'm a little bit of a rule follower. I want to follow whatever the rules are and get offended if people aren't following the rules. So if you think maybe it's sort of true, it could be that you're seeing that leaning towards the other tendency. Okay, Gwen, let's do the next one.
Okay, so the next question, which I will launch now, is just for the obligers in the room. So if you're an obliger, this question is for you. Which of the following traits do you see in yourself? And you can check multiple ones, all that apply to you. The first one is, others would readily describe me as reliable, harmonious, and helpful. The second option is, I'll keep saying yes, ... until I won't. The third option is, even when I want to do something for myself, I find it difficult to work up the motivation. And the fourth option is, my word is bond. If I tell you I'll take care of a task, you can trust me to get it done. And I'll just leave it up for 10 more seconds. Let our obligers get their votes in. Okay, I think that's everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll.
Yes, definitely I can relate to this. Obligers are usually the ones on the team that get things done. And there's that saying about, well, if you want something done, go to the busiest person on the team and they'll do it. It could be that's an obliger, because one of the things that obligers have trouble with is saying no to things, because they really do want to get it done, and once they commit to something, they want to follow through. The second one, I'll keep saying yes until I won't. Eventually, the obliger will just get overwhelmed with things and will kind of do an obliger rebellion, where they'll say, I'm just not doing it anymore. And they'll just kind of fall out of whatever task they're doing, and just say no, basically. And I have definitely done that too. And I noticed on the Better app, which is an app I'm going to talk about later, but it's an app that Gretchen Rubin has for people to talk to others with their tendencies. Apparently there's a lot of larger rebellion going on now as we're stuck at home and we're doing the same things over and over again, cooking the food, doing the laundry. And so there's definitely people like reaching their limit, even non-obligers. But the difference might be the obligers really trying to keep up, and then we'll suddenly like say, okay, that's it, I'm not having any more. So let's go to the next one.
Okay. So the next one is for upholders. I'll launch it now. So this question is just for the upholders. What traits do you identify with? Okay. The first option is, I take initiative, I'm a self-starter. The second is, routine grounds me and I like to automate my tasks. The third is, I'm okay with some ambiguity, but I think instructions should be clear and easy to follow. And the fourth option is, close friends and family can rely on me to dish out the tough love. So I'll give our upholders a chance to vote before I close the poll. And maybe I should mention too that not all of the traits in these, not all of these options are just upholder traits. Some of them are also traits of other tendencies that sort of overlap with the tendency in question. Okay, I'll go ahead and end the poll. Show everybody the results.
So top of the list on this one is I take initiative, I'm a self-starter. Upholders can see a goal and then just start working towards it. They can just focus on it, and there's nothing like holding them back. And if somebody asks them to do something, they will do it. They'll put that on their plate and do it too. They're really dependable. The difference between upholders and obligers is that the obliger might say yes, even if they really can't do it because they're overloaded, whereas the upholder will say no if they're not going to have enough time to finish it. They'll be a little bit more protective of their time and their goals than an obliger would. Let's do the next one.
Okay, the next question is for the questioners. So for the questioners in the room, here are your 4 options that you can choose, all that apply. I spend lots of time thinking through future scenarios. The second is, I don't always trust the decisions others make. I prefer to choose for myself or the group when possible. The third is, when the unexpected happens, I might have a hard time adjusting and reconstructing my plan. And the last one, I'm very in touch with my real, authentic self. Okay, I'll let it go for 5 more seconds. Okay, so here are those results.
Okay, so the top with this one was that questioners spend a lot of time thinking through future scenarios. Questioners in general like things to be very effective, very efficient, and don't like spending time on things that seem useless, basically. Often when presented with something, if they can't justify it to themselves, they just might not do it. When an unexpected happens, they might have a hard time adjusting their plans. In that way, they're kind of like upholders, things to be well defined. Let's go on to Rebel. We'll do Rebel just if you guys want to.
All right, here's Rebel. For the Rebels, here are your 4 options. The first is, I prefer to align my actions with my authentic, true self. The second is it's worthwhile to find a new and different path to a goal rather than repeating what's been done before, even if it takes more time. The third is, some call it playing devil's advocate. I'd call it testing a theory. The fourth is, my time and energy commitments to people I love and causes I believe in take priority over most everything else. So I'll give y'all a chance to vote. All right, I'll leave it up for 5 more seconds and then close it. Here are the results for y'all. There we go.
Rebels really do align with themselves. Their identity is important to them, and what they do is important to them. anything that they set their mind on, they can definitely do. But it might take something, might take some working to get them to decide that, yes, that's what they want to do. I definitely rebels would be playing devil's advocate because they often don't like to do what everyone else is doing. Let's go. Okay. Do we have another one, Glenn, or is that the last one?
This is the last one for the specific to each tendency, but we do have a couple discussion chat box questions if you want to do those now, or we can do them.
Yeah, let's go
on.
ahead and do them now.
Okay. So now these next questions are going to be for anyone who can't see the poll but can access the chat box. I'll read the question and then everybody will answer in the chat box. So please don't answer in the poll screen. This is, let's answer this one in the chat box. Tell us your tendency and a trait you admire in a different tendency. So the example is, I'm a questioner and I admire that rebels have a firm sense of their identity. And some answers rolling in. Oh, yeah, Sheila, if you want to leave and rejoin, I'll let you back in, and that might refresh some of the features for you. And Laurie, are you able to see the chat box? Nice. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove this question from the mail screen.
Okay. I think that's interesting just because everybody has different traits, and part of what we're doing here, like Sarah said, is realizing everybody has different traits and each trait has a positive and a negative. So for me, an obliger, if I'm doing things for other people, I can get a lot done. But then my negative is that I don't have a lot of gumption for myself. And so I said that I admire rebels. My sister is a rebel. And what I admire about her is she'll just go out and do whatever she wants. Move to New York City on her own? Sure, why not? You know, ask some roofer dude to help her program the sprinkler system at my dad's house? Sure, why not? You know, she'll just do whatever she wants. And she doesn't mind being out there doing that. And that's like a little bit of that gumption that I wish I had. But rather than just feeling upset that I don't have that gumption, if you learn more about yourself and what makes your tendency the way it is, you can learn tricks to work within your own personality. I would really love to be an upholder, because then, yeah, I can imagine I would get a ton done, but I can't just say I'm an upholder and pretend to be an upholder. I have to realize, well, I don't actually work that way, and then come up with strategies that will work for me. So I think it's interesting too. Leora, I think you said that, you know, you don't think your tendency, I don't know if you want me to mention what you said, but I would guess that you're a bit of a rebel, because you don't want to tie yourself down to any one thing.
On the quiz I took, I scored perfectly even obliger upholder questioner. I didn't score any.
Interesting.
That's
Interesting.
super interesting, Leora. Somehow that makes sense to me after my conversations with you. Or even across the questions. That's funny. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have one more, don't we, Gwen?
So the next one is it's the life hack one. Do you want to do that one now?
What was it? Which one is it?
It's the life hack question.
I'm not understanding you, I guess.
It's the let me pull it up. Just share an investing life hack you've discovered.
Let's go ahead and do it, I guess.
Okay, cool. All right, so this is our last question for the poll today. It's another discussion question, so it'll be answered in the chat box. Please answer in the chat box. Share an investing life hack you've discovered. So you don't need to share your tendency, but that might be helpful if somebody else is the same tendency or even a different tendency, and they look at your life hack for investing and can benefit from it. So the example is, I joined a free investing group to keep learning and maintain accountability. I just love the synchronicity of those two investing hacks coming one after the other.
Oh, it's just a regular life hack.
It can be a regular life hack, or if we want to make it specifically an investing hack.
Okay. I think most people, oh, okay. I think most people have added their hacks in there. Interesting. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to do a quick overview of the tendencies, and then we're going to talk a lot about communication styles, and how the tendencies can help with that. So as we went through the survey, you guys could kind of see what some of the characteristics of the tendencies are. So that was kind of an overview there. But for those of you who are new, there's 4 tendencies: upholders, obligers, rebels, and questioners. And everybody has a little bit of another tendency. And where these circles overlap is where sort of the second tendency is the one that you might tip to. So like, I'm an obliger that tips to upholder. And I guess I wish I was an obliger that tipped to rebel, but that's not happening. So that's why it's presented this way. And the reason she started this framework is because a friend of hers said that she really did a great job going on her exercise missions, like in jogging every morning when she was in school, but she can't do it at all now. And that seemed really weird to Gretchen Rubin, who's an upholder, because she's like, well, what do you mean? You just do it. What's the big deal? And that's how she started thinking about these. And she realized that it's related to expectations. Your inner expectations, like your expectations for yourself, which is commonly, you can think of your New Year's resolutions. Do you make those and do you keep them? Those are keeping your inner expectations. And upholders might be more likely to do those. Outer expectations are the ones that come from other people, either your friends or your doctor, or rules for traffic or whatever building you're entering. So in general, upholders, as we said before, they meet outer and inner expectations. Obligers tend to meet the outer expectations, but not the inner. Rebels resist both outer and inner expectations. They want to do what they want to do. Questioners, they'll resist outer expectations. They'll require clarification, but they're likely to meet their inner expectations. So we'll just talk a little bit about these. Oh, I did want to say, why do we even care about this? It's partly so you can understand yourself better and help you reach the goals that you want. And it's also partly to help you deal better with other people, because investing is never done alone. You're still working with other people, and you deal with other people throughout your life. So if you can find better ways of communicating with them, it makes your life and their life easier. Ooh, I'm an obliger, and do you see how I tacked on "and their life"? Because on an obliger, to me, that would be a justification that if you're making someone else's life easier, that might be a reason to do it, but that's like an obliger reason. So, darn. So I'm sorry if I'll go through this really quick, because I know we talked about this a little bit in this meeting and in the last meeting. So they are very self-directed. They can say no to things that would cause burnout. They are very much rule followers. They want to follow the rules. So an example of this with my husband was, you know, if there's no traffic coming at all, you have to wait for the little walking light to light up to walk across the street, even when you haven't seen any traffic for 10 minutes. Well, for him, yes, you do, because he is an upholder, whereas I'm more likely to just walk across. That tendency of following the rules very strictly is also something that can trip up upholders. They can get too focused on doing what's right or what's asked for them, even if in the big picture it might not really make any sense. So that's where it helps if somebody else sort of helps them step back to look into it. Gretchen Rubin calls that tightening, where you're just kind of clamping down on the rules. What that might be like in investing is that you read some investing advice from a blog you've been following, and they suggest a fund for you to invest in. And you look at the fund and you don't really agree with it. You're not really sure, but you follow their advice. So you go ahead and buy the fund anyway, because that's the rule you made for yourself, that you're going to follow their advice. And in that case, you know, you probably don't want to. So I'm going to talk about questioners next. So questioners will meet their inner expectations. They have an idea of what they want to do, but they want anything that comes external to be justified. And so this usually means that they might be the ones to find out the hole in a plan. They might be the ones to find a really effective way of doing something. So they would be the ones that said, I'm not going to follow that advice. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Or they might even write that blog person and say, this doesn't make any sense. I want you to justify your reasons for this. So those are great benefits that questioners have, but they can also, once again, go overboard. That's sort of like the trade-off. You can go overboard with asking your questions, where you end up in analysis paralysis, where you can't decide on something because you still are questioning if this is the right thing, or if you need more details, or maybe something wasn't explained fully, and that's why you don't actually just pull the trigger and do whatever it is you want to do. And different ways of helping that are setting limits for yourself, saying you're only going to look at certain blogs, or if you look at like a big fund company like Vanguard or Fidelity, you're going to just look at 10, or limit yourself to the ones that are the most popular, something like that. So set some boundaries around what it is that you're doing so that you stop. You could set yourself a time limit. Say, I'm only going to research this for the next 2 weeks, and then I'm going to, whichever one I decide is the best, I'm just going to go with that one. That strategy works pretty well, not just for questioners, but for other people too. And this questioners could also be tripped up if they are asked to do something and their boss asks them to do it, and they just decide, I'm not going to do it because it doesn't make any sense. That's when they can trip themselves up, and it makes it harder for them to get ahead. Obligers tend to want to meet outer expectations, meaning they want to be helpful for other people. And inner expectations are harder. They feel like they're too busy to do something, or what always happens to me, it's like, I have these ideas of things I want to do, but it's like, but, you know, my friend asked me to check out this other fund for them, and so I better do that first because they're waiting on me. I have to get back to them in time for them to be able to take action on it. So that's what I end up finding myself stuck in. So the way around that is making outward accountability. So I joined a gym so that I would force myself to work out because somebody was expecting me to be there at a certain time every week. And with COVID-19, that actually just went out the window because I can't go anymore. It would probably still work if he just called me up on the phone and said, did you do those exercises I told you to do? I'm counting on you to do those. That would probably be enough to make me do them, just from somebody saying, I'm counting on you. And so ways that the obliger can get external accountability is to like make an agreement with a friend. And the friend doesn't have to be doing the same thing. You could say, I'm going to go jogging every Monday morning. And you could ask your friend, so what are you going to do? And that friend might have something that a goal that they are trying to reach. And they could say, I don't know, I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to do an online yoga course. And I'll do that every Monday morning. And then you coordinate afterwards. And you say, so did you do it? Did you do what you've committed to? And that's a little hook to keep the obliger on the line, so to speak, to sort of get them to commit to doing it. Yeah, I find it very frustrating being an obliger because I feel like I should be able to just make myself do what I want to do, but it doesn't work that way. You still have to figure out what works to kind of trick yourself best. Okay, rebels will do whatever they want to do. They have to choose to do something, and then they'll follow through with it. So they have trouble with outer and inner expectations, mainly because they want to be more independent, want to be different from other people. So it's hard to force them to do something, even if it's something that they decided that they want to do. So for investing, I could imagine it would be, you have to save. Everybody says you have to save for your retirement. Well, if you're in your 20s, why do you have to start saving now? It seems kind of ridiculous that you'd be putting money away for 50 or 60 years from now. So I'm just not going to do it. So their inner expectation really should be that they want to save, but they might even think that they should, but they can kind of justify not saving by rebelling against that expectations. And it actually is has negative consequences for them. For rebels, if they want to do something, they can think about how that fits in with their identity. If you think you are really in shape, you want to be somebody who's really in shape. As you're getting older, you don't want to be one of those people that can barely walk around. You're going to be in shape. So that becomes your identity, and that becomes the force that can push you to do what you need to do it. So if you need to kind of trick yourself into doing something, you can focus on some value that you have that can be expressed in your identity. So for example, for investors, you can say, I'm in the AWIG club. It's nationally known now. And I'm an investor. They think women can't be investors. Well, I'm an investor and I do it my way. And I find deals that they don't even know about. And, they can't take that away from me. Women can be investors and I'm proof. So you kind of try and figure out what your identity can be. Other ways of doing it is like instead of a to-do list, maybe come up with a could-do list of things that you could do, and then you choose from them. And I remember at the last meeting, somebody said they actually do that. They have a huge list of things they could do, and then just choose from it based on what they feel like. And they said that it was driving their obliger husband crazy because he would look at this huge list of things to do and imagine them being on his plate because he's helpful, and would just get really upset about it. And it kind of makes sense if you think about what their tendencies are. Another thing that works for rebels is if you add an aspect of a game or a challenge to something. My sister, who's a rebel, she's a big one on, you think you can't do that? Do you think I can't do that? Let me show you. So she got trained as a car salesperson, And they all were, according to her, saying negative things about her. I don't think she's going to be very good. I don't think she gets it. She said, I'll show you. So her first month of selling cars, she sold 9 cars. And normal is maybe 1. Maybe 1. And that was her whole language. They think I can't do it. I totally can. I showed them. And so that, I mean, I don't think she's even done this framework, but like she motivated herself by sort of going against the man and rebelling. You know, I'll show you I can do this. So all of these tendencies, everybody has a little aspect of them in themselves. And the way you can kind of look and see which tendency is to see what language you find yourself saying, or what things seem to work for you if you're trying to get yourself to do something. And everybody in all these tendencies has to come up with a little trick to make themselves do it. And that's kind of goes back to the life hacks. Like maybe that's one of my, as Gretchen Rubin says, secrets of adulthood. You know, things that you find out as you're getting older and you feel like they're secrets of adulthood that somebody didn't tell you. It's like, why didn't I get this list when I was growing up? And I think one of them for me is you're always going to have to kind of trick yourself to do something, whether it's for my son, doing your homework, or making myself exercise or invest, or even call up your friend and say hello when you haven't talked to them in a while. You have to come up with tricks, and they'll either be ways to position yourself in your mind or position yourself in a situation to get yourself to do what you need to do, what you decide for yourself that you need to do. So if anybody have any questions about that, what we're going to do next is talk about communication styles, how to identify what somebody's tendency might be based on the language that you're hearing, and how you might respond to them. And we're going to go over some conflicts and some persuasions. But anybody have any questions in general about this before we jump to that? Oh, and let me tell you too, we are going to have a chance at the end to get together with a smaller group and just share anything personal that you want to share about your tendency, or how you can see your tendency in your life, or how you think it is helping or hurting your investment. So that we're going to do that at the end. But anybody want to make any comments right now? Nope. Okay.
Yeah, hold on, Laurie, I'm just going to stop you right there. Just to, if anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat box, or you can, I think we're a small enough group that you can unmute yourself. If you just have anything that you want to throw out there before we get going again.
Okay, well, while we wait a little bit, I'll get my next set of slides set up. Okay, so we're going to talk about communications, which in general means, regarding this, thinking about the tendency of the people that you're interacting with and considering their tendency in the language that you use to interact with them. And it's both to avoid conflict with them and to get them to see your point of view and potentially persuade them to do something. Sorry, I'm trying to get it to, oh, there it goes. Sorry, it's sliding really fast. So here's just a kind of quick overview that I put in. I mean, obviously this is not the be all and end all, but it can kind of help think about these things. So upholders like rules, and they tend to follow rules. So rules are big with upholders. Questioners like explanations of things. Why are you doing something? Why is this more effective than other things? Or, you know, what's the base reason for doing it? Like maybe there's a reason that's not really clear. Obligers like to help others, and rebels want to make sure there's choice. They want to have a choice, and in addition, they do things that match their identity. So when you're talking with somebody and you're trying to avoid a conflict, try and, I mean, obviously, you don't want to do this all the time, but are you using language that resonates with other people? Is it language that, because it's the type of language they would normally use, it's just really easy for them to understand and agree with, and not quibble with you on just how you say something. So what we're going to do is I am going to read some scenarios that Gretchen Rubin thought of. They're work scenarios, and we're going to read them, and you have to try and guess. You want to try and guess which tendency the speaker of the sentence is. So I don't know, maybe everybody can put their answer in chat maybe. Oh, which I can't see with this setup. Okay, here's the first one. My boss micromanages me and won't let me do my work in my own way, in my own time. So what tendency do you guys think that is? Rebel, yeah, most people say rebel, yeah, my own way, yeah. Upholder, I get things done. Upholders don't usually care about doing things their own way. If the boss told them to do it a certain way, they probably want to do it that way. Gretchen thought that I could be a rebel or a questioner. And I would have said rebel too, but she thought maybe a questioner would have that kind of language. Here's the next one. I told my colleague that I was angry that I had to work on an extra project, and he was so unsympathetic. He just kept saying things like, if you didn't want to do it, why did you say you'd do it? So the person speaking is upholder, obliger. Yeah, I think it's an obliger, because if you didn't want to do it, why didn't you sort of automatically agreed to do it, even though they got overloaded? Yeah, I don't know who they're talking about. Then Gwen said, and they're probably talking about an upholder. Could be. It could be anybody who asked them to do something. Here's a new one. My colleague asked me not to send work emails over the weekend or after work hours, but my view is it's most efficient for me to send the emails when an issue is on my mind, and it's up to everyone to design for himself or herself the most effective way of handling workload. I'm not going to limit my emails to some arbitrary set of hours. Okay, what's your guess? Upholder, questioner? Upholder, questioner. Yeah, I think questioner or upholder. Yeah, I think upholder, because the upholder sends out these emails and just expects the other people to just not respond. You know, you can choose not to respond, because the upholder would do that. They would totally limit their exposure to things that they didn't want to work on. So it would be upholder. Questioner, you know, that's the most effective. It's like, well, because other people might not view it that same way. Here's the next one. I pride myself on being a great team player, but my team keeps asking me to pick up a bigger and bigger share of ours. Got pulled onto another project last night. I keep waiting for my boss to step in to tell my team that that is just too much work for one person. And I'm getting increasingly resentful that this isn't happening. Obliger, upholder or obliger? I guess obliger. I think it's an obliger, because basically they're picking up work and they're not saying no themselves. They're not saying no on their behalf. They're trying to maintain the external requirements that the boss said do it, so they're trying to do it. And they need to just say, no, I can't do that. You know, I've already reached my limit of things. And the fact that they're getting resentful is leading towards obliger rebellion, where the obliger will just say, look, I'm out of here, I quit, unexpectedly. Here's another one. My manager does whatever corporate says, and when I point out better, more efficient ways to achieve our team's goals, refuses to listen to me. What do you guys think? Are you guys guessing? Okay, questioner, rebel, questioner or rebel? Yeah. Rebel or questioner? Yeah. Yeah, I could see either. Gretchen thought that, she said questioner. She thought the key point was better, more efficient ways, that questioners really are interested in that. And so that's like the base reason for them to basically want people to listen to them. Rebels, just because, you know, their way should be the right way. Okay, so now identify the tendency of the person the speaker is talking about. My boss drops everything to do what a client wants, even small or unreasonable things, and that means that more high priority work doesn't get done. What's your guess? The boss is a obliger? I can't tell. When I look at the chat, I can't tell if it's from the last one or not. Obliger? Probably obliger. Does whatever the client wants, even if there's other priorities. The student I'm tutoring says, the student I'm tutoring keeps saying he wants to meet more often to get help with other school projects, but he keeps canceling. Last week I suggested, let's meet next week. And he said, sure. But when I followed up, he didn't respond. Rebel, rebel, rebel. I think it's a rebel. Probably they just didn't feel like meeting at that time. That the meeting at a certain time is not what would motivate a rebel. A rebel needs other motivations. My boss expects everyone to just get it done without much discussion, and gets very impatient when people struggle or want a lot of explanation about why things are being done a certain way. So what is the boss? Upholder, 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 questioner, upholder, questioner. I think it's in my opinion, it's an upholder, because the boss just said, get it done, you know, and if somebody just told him to get it done, he would just figure it out and do it without needing a lot of extra stuff. He gets impatient when other people struggle. Sometimes upholders don't understand why other people have trouble getting started because it's so easy for them. And so sometimes they get frustrated with that. And other people apparently want an explanation about why things are being done a certain way. That's probably the questioners asking the boss, well, why are we doing it this way? I don't understand. And the upholder, the rule follower, wants you to just do it, you know, and not have to go through, why are we doing this a certain way? So what we're going to do now is like a little scenario that we're going to act out. And your job is going to be identify the tendencies of the people speaking, and then we're going to talk about ways that they could have communicated better. Okay, so Gwen or Sarah, can you read half of this for me? Be one of the people.
Yes.
Oh, you're gonna. Can you do it, please, Gwen?
Yeah, I can do. Are we doing both of the scenarios? I can do the first one.
Yeah, we'll do the first one and talk about it, and then do the second one.
Okay.
And I can put it up on the screen if you want.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Let me find it. Sorry, I have to go and look for it. Okay. Okay. So I guess I'll be the manager and you can be the employee.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Hi there. What's up?
Well, I've been trying to combine everyone's section of the report into one document, and I give up. I spend so much time trying to format their work and even rewrite parts so that it'll fit in the template, and I just can't do it anymore. It's not going to happen.
Wait, what template?
What do you mean, what template? The one that Joe, the project manager before me, used.
Well, why are you using that template? And why are you formatting other people's parts?
Well, because somebody has to do it, and I thought this was the template that the report had to be in. It's the one Joe always said he used. How can you say this to me after I've spent almost 2 days working on this?
I didn't realize you were doing that. And I don't understand why you'd bother. No one expects a particular template. Just do your part in whatever way works best. Other people should do the same for their parts.
No, you know what? This is the last straw. I quit.
You quit. Okay, guys, what do you think the manager is? Yeah, most people are answering questioner. I think the manager is a questioner because they immediately started asking questions like, why are you doing that? Why didn't you just do it your own way? Why follow rules? Why follow the rules that you think are already there? by using someone else's template. So what do you think the employee is? Upholder, rebel, obliger, upholder, obliger. Okay. I think that the employee is an obliger. And some of the key phrases are trying to combine everyone's section of the report into one document. They had to do this report. They thought it meant taking everything from these people and putting it into the right format. And they're even having to rewrite parts of it. So basically they're taking on this huge task of compiling everything together. And they're, that's the main thing. The tipping towards the upholder is like following the template that was there before. At the end, just getting really frustrated with it and then just say, okay, I quit. That's basically the upholder reaching their limit very unexpectedly in what appeared to be just the middle of the conversation, but the upholder had just decided, I'm not doing this anymore. And they reached what's called an obliger rebellion, where they basically just said, I'm out of here. And it's like, well, that's probably not in their best interest to do that. But they thought they were just taking on too much. One thing that the boss could have done was just not ask as many questions, because the boss naturally is a questioner and would want to ask questions, but that might not have come across the right way to the obliger. Somebody said the employee is an obliger. Yes, the words you use for explaining the manager were rebel traits. Oh, the reason I thought that the manager was a questioner is because they said basically they implied that that's not an effective way of doing it. And I know, I see what you mean, that the templates have to be, who cares what format they're in. I think the fact that they don't want to, they only want to do what seems most effective, which is everybody just doing their own part and pushing it through the process, not necessarily. Yeah, I could see that they do sound a lot like rebel questions, like, why do you care what it looks like? Just put it together however you need to and put it out there. So it does sound like kind of a rebel, but some of the things about it being effective or questioner. So does anybody have any suggestions for ways they could improve that?
And I think it might be such a thing, I just unmuted myself, that that you can unmute yourself instead of typing something into the chat box too, if that makes it a little bit easier, right? Like I see Laura saying, assume good intent leads to kinder language and avoiding conflict, which I think is, I think.
Yeah, and I like what, yeah. And I like what Lauren said about acknowledge the employee's hard work and intent. So that way the obliger can see that their work is not for nothing. It's not just throwaway work. And it also says that the obliger could have taken a step back and realized, okay, the boss is just trying to find out what's going on. Where are we? The questions weren't meant as accusations. They were just meant to get clarity. And it's a questioner boss, questioner/rebel. So they tend to ask questions anyway. Yeah, and the employees should get clarity if there were any questions. Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
Laurie, I have a question for you that maybe is a hopefully related to this kind of this idea of resolving conflicts here, where we're talking about resolving conflicts with other people. What are your thoughts on kind of the dialogues and the conversations that people have with themselves? I mean, because investing is, I mean, for most of us, it's somewhat of a solitary undertaking, not necessarily solitary, but how do you think that, how do you think this plays out when people are trying to, are having conversations with themselves and trying to figure out how to take the next steps forward when they're thinking about investing decisions?
Well, I think a big part of it is feeling bad that they're not doing what they want to do. Like almost, well, okay, I guess there's two tendencies that have a hard time doing it. And so I think for them, their self-language might be along the lines of, why can't I do this? Why can't I just finish this up? Or why can't I just choose this stock? Or everybody else is doing this, you know, other people are successful. Why am I not successful? And then they have to tell themselves is like, you are successful. You have to find the right framework to work within to realize that what works for somebody else might not work for them.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, because listening to this, you know, the scenarios where the communication conflict is between two people. I just wanted to ask because I found with this group and in my line of work, I hear people's narratives that people are often vulnerable enough, like going back to that, to tell me their thought process for how did they get to where they are. How is that stopping them from achieving what they think their goals should be? And so it's almost like listening to someone's inner dialogue with themselves. I mean, like you said, where I know I should be doing something. This is why I'm not doing it, and having kind of that inner conflict with something like investing. So I think that's interesting. But Lauren said, I have a battle between my strong rebel and questioner traits. Oh man, imagine from an investing perspective, Lauren, what that was like. You're like, I totally get it. Yeah, and says I relate. Where you have like, I don't know, like the angel and the devil, like having different conversations on your shoulders, and then I don't know, it's really,
yeah.
You can assume good intent of yourself as well. I think often our language with ourselves is harsher than it is with other people, because externally there are social pressures to not use harsh language, but inside of your head, none of those filters apply, and people tend to judge themselves harshly and shame themselves.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely.
So you're right. Like, yeah. So if you learn like a communication style that works well with like a obliger, why not remind yourself of that while you're talking to yourself? Yeah. For me, it's mainly frustration that I'm not doing what I know I should do, what I want to do, not getting where I want to be. Yeah.
I heard my mom saying things like that too, and the thing that I suggest is trying is, what if you assume that you are doing what you should be doing, and that maybe where you're using should is misplaced.
Yeah, and also I've heard you shouldn't be using the should language. You know, you just what is it? Who's telling you that you should be doing this? Why do you keep saying should?
Very interesting.
Yeah. Cool question, Sarah. So now we're going to do another scenario. Let's
Sarah, do you want to
see.
do this one?
Yeah, who wants to do this one? I'll even let you be the manager.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
Anybody can do it. It doesn't have to be Sarah or Gwen.
I don't mind. I'm already unmuted.
Okay.
All right.
All right. You're the manager.
I'm just going to make up the tone here, just so I don't know if I'm going to get the tone right. I want to talk about how things were going with the new hires mentorship program. I sent you an email 2 weeks ago asking for a status update, and I never heard back from you.
Oh yeah. I've been doing a lot of thinking and planning.
We gave you a lot of support in terms of templates, resources, and examples of how other companies have done theirs, but it seems like there hasn't been any progress on it all quarter.
Well, I have my own ideas on how to run it.
I'd heard from John that you were really interested in the mentorship program, so I was happy to assign it to you. But I feel like if you take this program seriously, you'd have a proposal in by now. So I'm reconsidering whether managing this program is the right fit for you.
It's like, oh no, Sarah, don't do that. Okay, so like, let's say, what tendency do you think the manager is? Upholder. Yeah, I would say upholder. Yeah, upholder. They basically said, here, go and do this. Here's everything you need to know to do it with templates and resources and examples from other companies. So I'd say upholder. What tendency do you think the employee is? Questioner. Rebel. Questioner. So the argument for rebel is, well, I have my own ideas for how to run it. In other words, they don't want to get any input from someone else. They want to do it their way. I've been doing a lot of thinking and planning. That could be rebel or questioner. The way it sounds like this person hasn't even looked at the templates and resources and examples, which I think a questioner would, and they might question why they did it a certain way. But it sounds like the employee is just like, I'm not looking at that stuff. I'm going to do it on my own. And that's like a rebel tendency. So it also could be, it definitely sounds like they're having trouble getting started for one reason or the other. If it was a questioner, it's that they are thinking of too many different ideas and they haven't been able to just like put a stake in the ground and say, okay, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to choose this and this and this from these examples and do it. And the rebel doesn't even want to look at the examples, wants to do it on their own. But as you know, rebels, even if there's something they want to do, they can have a hard time pinning themselves down and getting themselves to do it. So they would really need to sort of put themselves more in that role of, I'm going to be a mentor to these new hires. This is very important that they come in on the right foot, and we really want to incorporate them into the culture. And it's very important to do that. And so I am going to go ahead and start some ideas on that. That might be a way for the rebel employee to get themselves going. So now we want to talk about, like, what could the manager say that would be better language? better language for talking to this employee about this? Anybody have any suggestions? No, Laura says that it's also possible the person did a lot of work, but is just not showing it to the manager because they're still thinking of it. But it's self-sabotage from the manager's perspective. Oh, Lauren asked the employee for the ideas. Yeah, if they've been thinking, maybe that's something they need to do to, you know, encourage them to move along. And don't focus so much on, look, I gave you this, this, and this. Why aren't you doing it? Maybe they need to talk it through. Yeah. Assume a good intent, yeah, and be curious. Don't belabor the point. The manager also says, I feel like you're not taking this seriously. You would have a proposal in by now. It's like, well, he's kind of knocking the employee right away, saying you're not taking it seriously. It could be the person is taking it very seriously, but is stuck in a certain phase. And it says you'd have a proposal in by now. It's like, well, did he set up a deadline? Lots of people work best, especially obligers, if they have a deadline, instead of just having them come into the office and say, well, it's been 2 weeks, what do you have? That kind of goes back to the manager's obliger nature. They just assume that there would be something forthcoming, even though they haven't done anything to make sure that person is going along in the right track. Yeah, we could go ahead and talk about some questions. Do you guys want to talk about this a little bit? What we're going to do next is I'm going to give you guys a task to come up with a way to persuade people, and we're going to go into our separate groups. We're each going to just be chunked into a group automatically, and as a group, you guys will talk about like what a message might be for this, and then we'll come back to the larger group and just share what you guys came up with. So we're going to, this is the first of 2 separate groups.
Hey, Laurie, just to update you, we're at 4:02 already.
Oh.
So we've got about 30 minutes. Do you think we could carve out a couple minutes to have people ask specific questions if there are people on the call who'd be willing to share maybe some of the questions that they have with the group, and then go into private groups? Would that work?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to run all the way into that end, and I think that maybe
good point.
Yeah, maybe there's a couple people who have some questions, even if it's if it's related to career or communications, or if it's related to investing specifically, where you want to kind of pick the brains of the other people in the group. Now would probably be a pretty good time to do that. Does anyone have anything? We got a couple of DMs. I don't know if those people are still on the call. No. You can just unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Sherry.
Hi.
Hey, Sherry.
Yeah.
Hi.
I guess I'm just curious, it might be a little out of the scope of this meeting, but somebody who's trying to get more into investing, and I'm a rebel, and I'm wondering if that's what's caused me to be so resistant. Just any top tips you might have, so I could walk away maybe just with a top tip or 2 or something of just something I could do to get started.
Well, my main one for a rebel would be really focusing on why you're investing. What is it that you want to get out of it? do you see yourself as an investor, or do you see yourself as somebody who is a provider for your kids, or you're a good saver, or like basically what is your reason and what value can you pull out of that for why you're investing? And that will kind of give you the meat of why you're doing it, and that will help sort of motivate you for that. And it also gives something for you to like remind yourself, you know, why am I doing this again? You know, I don't really want to spend time on this right now. It's like, well, remember, you know, you're a good provider for your kids. You're saving for them to go to college. And so that's why you're doing it now, even though it's years, you know, years and years early. I don't know what your situation is, but that would be what I would try.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah,
And
Sherry,
another,
Sherry, would you
yeah,
share to the group like where you like what your rebel tendency is that's coming out when you're trying to get started?
Well, I wonder if it's so much rebel or just, I think, I'm betting there's some overlap between the Myers-Briggs of like, I tend to go on to the next thing versus, even though this one, I keep coming back to this one, but then I'll go on to like squirrel, now I'm going to look at something else. And so I'm wondering if there's a little overlap there of, I don't understand it, so it's easier for me to go on to something else that I'm better at.
Yeah. It's on your to-do list, but then you just look at your to-do list and then don't do it. That's like my main move.
Exactly. So that's kind of, you know, and I know I need help, and so that's why I'm here, like letting go of that, I have to do everything.
I bet that's really hard for rebels in this case, right? Because that you have to give up the decision making if you are hiring someone to do it, or you have to carve out the time to learn it. And if it's not taking precedence on the to-do list, then you're not doing that either. I can totally see that. I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, I like the why answer too, though, because I believe in that whole, like the Simon Sinek, your why. And, you know, mine is not so altruistic as children, because I avoided doing that. It's more like, don't want to eat cat food in my retirement.
Independent, right? Being financially independent and self-sufficient. That's a really big one in this group and with my clients, right? Where it's not for anyone else, it's for myself. I identify with that too, where I'm like, well, these people, they can take care of themselves. I'm going to take care of myself,
yeah.
right? But those have been some of the things that have worked for me in the past and also I think Laurie mentioned this at the beginning, just as a rebel, like labeling myself as an investor, right? It's what I do because I'm an investor, right? And that, you know, that this is what I do now, so I need to carve out time, or I need to put someone in because this is just what I do as part of my identity. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I would almost say saving for retirement, it might help if you could envision what your retirement might look like, you know, in your dream world. You know, I'm living somewhere else. I'm living in Paris. You know, I'm traveling the world, or, you know, I'm at the beach, whatever it might be. So you're like, versus like the Walmart greeter, or somebody who doesn't have very much money, and you can say, well, I'm going to be that other person. That's where I'm headed. That might help.
Great.
Another
that
thing
all helps. Thank you.
Another thing that helped for me, because to me it sounds like a prioritization problem, because it sounds like, I don't know, I thought of going to the next thing. And what I found, I've seen this with, there's this book that we read in a user experience professionals group book club, which is Bored and Brilliant. And she talks about the importance of like not having stuff scheduled. And part of my response in reading that she touches on many things, but one of the things I noticed, I really love to read. and I even love to read. Like, I never miss assigned reading during school, but I've noticed, like, you know, almost a decade into my first job, career thing, post school, that I feel like my reading muscle for, you know, like white papers and like, you know, serious reading has decreased, and that, like, I can tell because I won't sit and read a book straight through, and I used to be able to do that very easily. So a very concrete task I gave myself was trying to challenge myself to read for an hour. And literally, if I had a clock or something, I'd tell them to read an hour, like, go and sit back down. The other thing that I tried with that is I feel like generally when we're trying, I would say I want to carve out space to give myself a chance to do this thing. We generally don't give ourselves enough time. And it's partly related to what I feel is a general trend with social media and stuff, that all of us, our attention spans and ability to focus is decreasing because the things that we're using actually train us not to do that. And so if you think you need an hour, it's like if you really think it's that important, like literally give yourself an entire day or half a day and just like make sure you schedule nothing else. And it's like, there's lots of advice you've heard over the course of your life. It's in there. You're smart, you're capable. And, you know, if you'll make progress. It's just, I feel like we generally don't give ourselves enough time to counter how little time we give ourselves to what actually matters to us these days. So I'm gonna say, get started, just give yourself half a day or a day and probably start.
Awesome, thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Laurie, do you have time for one more? Sheila has one here that I think goes back to like the interpersonal communication styles. So Sheila in the chat box says, I'm interested in finding the right tone to have a dialogue with a financial advisor to let them know what my expectations are of them, to also let them know that I'm not being a rebel or challenging them, but would rather have them not give me generic answers. So I think that's really interesting and touches on a lot of stuff. That's a really cool question. Like how, when you are, what are some of the tips you can offer to Sheila? And her question is in the chat box too. I know it was kind of long there.
Yeah, I see it. When I was interviewing financial, I don't know, is it a financial advisor that you already have, or that when you're trying to find?
Sheila, is there any way you can you unmute and kind of maybe check in and give us a little bit more background?
Yeah, well, it's not, it's just in general, you know, when you're talking, because for the past 2 months, I've been talking to a lot of people, and sometimes, you know, I get answers right away off the bat. They seem to know where I'm getting at, where I'm at. But others, I have to just hem and haw and go around and round. It gets frustrating, but I want to kind of know what is the best way to do that without wasting a lot of their time or my time to get to the crux of the matter, to what I'm looking for.
So is it that you're interviewing them?
Yeah, exchanging ideas back and forth, interviewing them. Yes, primarily yes, to a potential financial advisor, you might say.
Okay.
Trying to find if it's a good fit, if that person is a good fit for me, if their goals and my goals, you know, we understand each other's goals and so forth.
Okay. In my opinion, that does matter a lot, how well you get along with them. So there's like technical things you ask them to find out what types of things they invest in. I like to know if they have a set portfolio that everybody in their group follows, or if it's going to be tailored to you, and how do they think about some of the basic things like stocks versus funds, loads, that type of thing. And then it really is just, I think a big part of it is whether or not you can communicate with them. When I was interviewing investors, so I have one investor that I think did an excellent job, and turned out I couldn't communicate with him. It just didn't really work, and he was a little patronizing too. But he actually did a really good job with the finances, and so it's like, okay, well, how much pain do you want to go through? And I finally decided it wasn't worth it. So interviewed a bunch of other ones, and one of the questions is like, who are you actually going to be talking to? Because sometimes the person you're interviewing with is not the person you're actually going to be dealing with most of the time, and it might not be the person who's defining the finances. So like one group I went to, they just had like a set of like 16 portfolios, and they just put you in one, and you would just meet with, you know, like a secretary-like person who would just show you what your status was. And it wasn't really a portfolio you could tweak. You could move between them, and you didn't really talk to the financial person, which is important to me. And also, if you can customize it, that's important to me too. So there's all those kind of technical things. Even though I got along fine talking to this woman who was like, she's like the salesperson / secretary, but that wasn't like a situation. Other times, I guess the one I had before, I got along with him okay. He didn't seem patronizing, but then most of the meetings devolved to, oh, we have this other form we need you to fill out. And here, let me just show you how everything's going. You know, well, can I see that at home? No, we have to actually generate this chart for you. So, you know, you'll have to come in. And so, yeah, that one kind of deteriorated after a while, but it was mainly, I didn't like the company, the rules the company had, and I didn't like how the communication devolved. So right now I'm with Sarah, and she got points because I could talk to her and she totally understood
that
what
was
I was
my
saying.
experience as well. And I'm at crossroads with so many people, and I'm wondering, is it me that's not doing a good job of communication? Is it them? And I have a feeling that if that same elicits different responses, favorable responses, I'm sure it's not just me, because I'm really getting through to some people, but not all of them.
Yeah, I decided that it does matter who you are working with, and you have to have a good working relationship. You have to be able to communicate with them, because you're going to be in a long-term relationship with this person. And if you can't, like, if you think, well, they're okay, I'm sure I could get along with it. No, it's not going to work. I already went through that, and it didn't work. So you do want somebody, and it'll be a different match for you than it is for somebody else.
Yeah.
Somebody else might like the style that other people have, because most of these people I went and interviewed, they were recommended by someone. Yeah. So I know there was somebody that was happy with them. They just didn't click.
Yeah, the consultant at this brokerage. The consultant at the brokerage. This is weird, because I said I feel like I'm at crossroads. We're kind of talking like, you know, I don't think I'm getting across. She said, just give them a try and see how it works. If it works, great. You're not under contract or obligation. If it doesn't work out, it's okay. And I just don't like to get into that situation where I'm changing my mind. It kind of throws in more, you know, energy and effort than it's necessary. Trying to figure out, I don't want to play around like that. You know, if I'm serious about it, I want to make sure that it's a good fit from the get-go.
Yeah, and maybe we even have a topic where we talk about this, because there are different things you can look for. And I'll just speak briefly to what you said. It's really hard to try someone out, because you switch all of your funds over and have to do lots of documents.
You end up with a bigger mess.
Have to be notarized.
Yeah.
It's a major deal. It's not.
It is.
If you're not comfortable, that probably means the answer is no.
Yeah.
But
Thank
yeah.
you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Can I interject something in here as a totally biased participant to this conversation? And as an advisor, one of the things that I found happens most often, either in hearing people tell the stories or in things that happen with me and other people, is advisors do not have a good idea of what your expectations are and what your level of experience is and what you are asking them to do. Because the interaction is so, first of all, brief, right? You're having a 30-minute phone call. If a client this happens to me all the time. Clients come in, they ask me very sophisticated questions, right? And so my mind automatically goes to like the most advanced technical level of someone's familiarity with the markets. And only later do I realize the person I'm talking to does not actually have that level of expertise, right? And so I think like some of these conversations with work, it's when people are meeting each other, everybody's, especially in a situation like this, everyone's a little defensive, right? Like you're defensive because it's your money. I'm defensive because I'm trying to figure out if it's a fit, and I'm trying to figure out, what the answers to the questions that you're asking. And so it's naturally like a fraught conversation. For me, what has worked best, I think, is having multiple long conversations. And hopefully, I'm always trying to get to some place, and I don't know if it happens after 15 minutes, rarely after 15 minutes, but maybe after a couple hours of talking to someone, there will be a moment of clarity where I can hear what the person is actually trying to say. And sometimes it's something like, I actually don't know what I'm talking about and I'm really scared, right? And that's freaking me out, right? And so I came in here with my armor on, like asking all these really hard questions, but really my question is, am I gonna be okay? And whatever, that's just one example. And sometimes it's like, I assumed that I didn't know what I was talking about, but I actually do, and like have way more understanding of the situation than I'm giving myself credit for. But it takes time to get there, and that's really difficult, I think, for an advisor and a client to be going through, because it's a time investment, right? How do you get to know someone where you feel like you're having an authentic conversation, and I feel like I know you and you feel like you know me, and that takes time, right? Like, and so it's usually not like you walk into an office and you have like a 30-minute chat with someone. Like, no, we don't walk into offices anymore, but you know what I mean.
Right, and maybe perhaps that was the rationale of this brokerage consultant who said, try it out, see how it fits in. If it doesn't, it's okay. But I just feel it's a lot of, like Laurie mentioned, you don't want to be in a bigger mess than you were before. You want to kind of cut it short and kind of keep it simple from the beginning. But I guess it depends on the kind of questions you ask and the kind of answers you get, and you can kind of, I guess, make out the experience and the expertise from in each other to see where this person is coming. She knows what she's talking about, or what she knows what she's asking. So yeah, whether it takes one visit or a couple, I guess we need to give time. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and part of listening and being a part of this conversation and knowing, like, it's not trying to put, for me, it's not trying to put people in a box. Like, oh, you are this way. Like, you are like this, and so I'll be like that, right? It's more like the fundamental understanding that people they have totally different internal dialogues. They have totally different ways of communicating, and they have totally different ways of setting, like you mentioned, setting expectations. What are the expectations? And knowing that will give you, the grace and to get through this, something like that, which is difficult. And we all and this is like one of the secrets of the profession. We are all trying to make our practices more efficient. And so, like Laurie mentioned, that usually means that someone specializes either in a client-facing role, which is more sales, or in the technical aspect, which is the research and the selection and the portfolio management, because it's difficult to have a practice where you're doing both of those things. And so that doesn't help. It doesn't help with your question. So maybe, long story short, it's not you.
I'd like to add on to what Laurie said. It's like money, the way for most of us, I mean, I feel like if we were all super rich, we wouldn't be in the call. It's such a, I think it's about, like, there's a baseline that you want to get to, which to me is just safety, like just feeling safe. And the thing about what Laurie said is I'm totally with her on that. It's like how much you could be, you know, super kind and like really I think you can listen and get along with almost everybody if you put enough effort in. But like, should that be your responsibility in the relationship? And so I'm kind of I feel like I'm with Laurie on, I'm like, if I can't get along with that person, if I can't trust them, like I think you can tell if you can trust a person without like a bunch of interactions. I definitely think like you can, if you're starting off defensive and scared, like, yeah, you might not get to the person, you might have to warm up to the person. But, you know, after maybe that longer conversation, if you still don't feel like you can be safe with that person, I would just, you know, like they're because those people exist. Like for me, like, you know, Sarah's been a cool person to talk to because she talked about like the story that people were telling her. It's different. Like not everybody asks and tries to figure that out. Not everybody tries. Not all advisors are trying to even really get to know you. And for some people, that hands off is great. But if you think you're actually inexperienced, then I would say you should not trust your ability to actually determine how expert that person is, which means that being able to trust them to get to understand you and know you, that means it's even more important. And that's what I would say, like generally, especially if someone's not sure, I would totally go with more of Laurie's side of, if it feels sketchy, like don't do it. If someone's genuine about trying it out, take them up on it. But it's like if, you know, you call and they're, you know, Sarah, and they say, yes, let's have an hour interview. But if you can't get the time with them where you feel like you could actually evaluate, then that's not good enough. And just like move on. That's, I think.
Maybe we have a discussion on it at one of our other meetings if there's enough interest in it. So we have one last exercise that we're going to do. Okay, so we're just going to talk briefly. I just wanted to touch on this because it goes back to the whole communication thing, which is the persuasion side of it. Especially for rebels, if you tell a rebel what to do or even make suggestions to them, they will automatically cross that off the list and might not even do it at all because you're basically putting your nose in their business. And what you should do with rebels is basically step back. You know, don't try and push anything with them. But if there's something really important that you need to get the rebel to pay attention to, there's this sequence of things that you can do. You can give information and then give consequences and then give a choice. And this tends to work for all of the other tendencies too. If you're an upholder, you tend to follow the rule anyway. Obligers, other people, rebels, you want to do information, consequence, and choice, and the same with questioners. Give them the details about why you're doing something, information, consequences, and choice. So I thought what we do for fun, and it'll be just something we do here at the end, if anybody has any suggestions, they can put on chat, what would be a good message or something you could tag onto a picture to get people to wear a mask. So if you have any ideas, go ahead and put them in the chat. Okay, you are saving lives, including your own. that's good for something that would work for 4 messages, 1 for each of them, or you could have a message that might work for everybody. Wear a mask today so we can get back to real living tomorrow. Don't really understand the dogs and cats one. Oh. Now I was thinking of mask, a sign that you could put up somewhere. Even though I like that, dogs and cats. That could be a reason, an obliger, you know, you can wear cute fabric to entertain others. Wear your mask. Yeah. So like information, consequences, choice. You could say millions of people are getting infected. Several studies have shown that wearing masks cuts down on transmission. What's your choice? Or maybe something like, do you want to be the type of person that infects your grandmother? Or something like that. I don't know. Okay. So anyway, just so we went over communication things to think about when you're talking with others, or having people wear a mask out and about. Let's see, I want to put up this, this one page, just so you can see the information for Gretchen Rubin. Oops. I always have trouble with that. Okay, so Gretchen Rubin, I know we're running late, I just want to let you know, Gretchen Rubin has a Four Tendencies course that you can take, and from now until the end of July, it's half off, it's $50. And so it's an online course that you take. There's also an app called the Better app, and that's the one that is basically where people of a certain tendency can either chat to each other, chat to people in their tendencies. If you're an obliger and you need an accountability group, you can join an accountability group to help yourself, you know, push forward on something. Or if you have questions about tendencies, you can check that out.